right. Welcome everyone to our second edition of Meet the TechMakers podcast series where we invite professional women in STEM to share with us their insights and experiences of being a woman in STEM. We hope this will inspire and become point of interest for the young women, especially for the young women of uCodeGirls who aspire to pursue STEM careers. Today we have a special treat because the lead facilitator of this discussion is a young woman of uCodeGirl, Joyli, a rising junior interested in exploring STEM careers. So this will be a special interest for her. We'll discuss topics such as, have you ever wondered what does a day in the life of a software engineer look like? Why do people decide to study computer science and pursue that career? What does one need to know to become a software engineer? So we're lucky to have two phenomenal women in STEM, in tech actually. Nicole Haugen from Microsoft, a principal software engineer, and we have Lauren from Stonewater, a software engineer, both of whom are mentors of uCodeGirls for a few years now. So grateful for helping uCodeGirl build the capacity and inspire more young women in our community to be interested in STEM careers, more specifically the T of the STEM technology. So without further ado, let us start with an introduction. Joyli, why don't you take the lead and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're comfortable sharing, like, what school do you go to, what grade are you, what activities are you involved in, do you enjoy most, and you will take the lead in asking the questions. So go for it, Joyli.
Okay, like Betty just said, I'm Joyli Kamau. I'm going to be a 10th grader actually. I'm going to be a sophomore this fall. And I'm going to be a sophomore at Cheyenne High School in West Fargo. And I've been a part of speech ever since 7th grade. And I'm planning on doing it once again this year. And I've been doing debate ever since last year. I'm also planning on continuing that this year. Other than that, I've been part of student council for a couple for in the middle school and now the high school as well. So I continue to pursue in that leadership. So that's just a little bit about me. And then I think we can start with Nicole, if you're okay with that. We can start with you to introduce yourself. You can just basically talk about what's your job title, where do you work, where are you from, or are you a native to North Dakota, and where did you go to school?
Hi, well, nice to meet you all. My name is Nicole Haugen, and my job title is Software Engineering Manager at Microsoft. I've worked for Microsoft for about 19 years, I think I'm going on, so the time went faster than I even imagined. I guess time flies when you're having fun. I graduated high school from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, so not too far at all from Fargo, just about an hour away. And I decided for college to go to NDSU, or North Dakota State University, which is where I went to school for a bachelor's of computer science, and then I also have a minor in math. And then I started working for Microsoft, and then I went back to school and got an MBA from NDSU as well. So that's just a little bit about me.
And Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren Tupa. I'm a software engineer at Stonewater Systems. I've been here for almost a year, and I've been working in the field for about 3 years. So I did grow up in Fargo. I went to Fargo South High School, graduated from there in 2012, and then I went to NDSU, and actually I got a bachelor's in statistics there with minors in computer science and neuroscience. So a little bit of a different path, but yeah, I'm here. We ended up here. So yeah.
You guys both kind of stayed in the general area. To start off, I'm going to ask you guys, what does it mean to you to be a woman in STEM? Lauren, if you can start.
Oh boy. um, man, to, I, I, I really enjoy working in STEM. You can tell that you bring, as a woman, you bring a different perspective to the table, just, general everyday stuff, when you're talking about different ideas and things like that. There's definitely things that you catch that others wouldn't, which is something that I didn't expect. But yeah, and it's just, I like being a part of a small group that's trying to get bigger and make a difference and make sure other women are also realizing that they have opportunities in this field as well. So yeah, it's been important to me, and I enjoy being a part of uCodeGirl to help with that. So, yeah.
Good answer. I'm assuming you want me to answer as well, so I'll go next. I think, technology is in everything today. And so I think that means that absolutely everyone needs to understand technology. And so I know the software industry has mostly been male, up until this point, really. I think we're starting to see more females, but we still have a long ways to go. So I'm happy to be at least another female in the room, like Lauren said, bringing diverse perspective to things. I know, software, like I said, it's involved everywhere. Computers are involved everywhere, and so our customers are very diverse, male and female. And so to serve our customers, we have to have that same diversity within the companies to be able to, meet customers' needs. And so I think that that's a really vital role that we need to play and fill. And so that's something I enjoy trying to do. And I have been also very happy to be a part of uCodeGirl, because these types of organizations did not exist when I was pursuing computer science, and wow, what a difference I think it would have made for me. So I'm so happy that I can be a part of an organization like this to help future generations of females come up and be successful and realize that they can do it. So
Nicole, like you just mentioned, computer science is a very male-dominated field. Has that ever turned you away from it and made you uncomfortable, or has that made you want to pursue it even more?
That's a good question. I think early on, there was many times where I wanted to quit because I felt like such an outsider. I think really one of my earliest memories of when I started computer science at NDSU, that was the first time I was really exposed to programming. And I remember I walked into my first coding class, and I'm pretty sure I was the only female there. And I felt like all eyes were on me. I know, for example, that my professor, he always knew my name. And so there's advantages and disadvantages with that. Like in one sense, I stood out automatically. And so, unlike all of my male counterparts that were students with me, I know the professor didn't know all their names, but they knew mine always. So that was good in some sense. But also when I didn't do so well on a test, or maybe I had to miss class for something, they also knew when I wasn't there. So that put some added pressure, I think, on me at points. I also had professors that would call on me all the time just because I think that I happened to stand out and they knew my name. And so again, I felt a lot of pressure at times from that. But like I said, I think that that's kind of a double-edged sword where there's pros and cons with it. And so I decided, instead of focusing on, the negative aspects of being the only one, to use it to my advantage, to realize that it was an opportunity to stand out, and that with that I had a lot of opportunities that come with that. And so that's what I chose to focus on. And I think it really, once I got that mindset, it really, helped me succeed as I moved forward.
Lauren, and you?
Yeah, like Nicole said, one of my classes in college, I had a professor I remember on the first day, or it was the second day or something, I walked in and I was sitting, closer to the front, and the professor was like, that this is this course, right? Like, this is a computer science course. And I was like, yes, I do. Like, yep, I know this is the course I'm supposed to be in. And he was like, so what's your major? Why are you here, basically? But yeah, like Nicole said, always called on me. It was, and, always, he knew who I was, and so did my classmates. Which, yeah, it was tough to get used to at first, but kind of like once I figured out the dynamic and kind of used that to my advantage, I guess, rather than a disadvantage, um, it worked out, you know, like he knew who I was. I could easily go in for office hours, things like that. But yeah, in the work, I'm trying to think of in the working world. There were a couple days I've had where, you know, you go home and you're just like, you just had a tough day, and whether it's because you're working in a male-dominated field or not, sometimes it's hard to connect with people at work or whatever. So I remember going home and being like, oh, can I do this for the rest of my life? Like, I don't know if I can do this for another 40 years, but then one of those days happened to be a day that I had to mentor for uCodeGirl that night, and I went there, and it was a great time. I always have a good time when I'm mentoring, and then I came home and I was like, oh yeah, like, okay, I do love my job. Like, I love this field. I'm really happy to be here, and it just kind of like, so yeah, not only do I try to help other young females in uCodeGirl, but it just definitely helps. It helped me in a weird way, but yeah. So you kind of, when you feel like you're the only female, which you may be, but when you feel it, you just try to find a way to make it work for you, kind of.
Yeah, like instead of trying to fit in, I really like how you guys said, you know, finding that strengths and leaning on that, and the mindset. It's just game changer. And also, you know, thanks for being the pioneers in the field. And you know, the more diversity of thoughts in the classroom, in the workplace, in the boardroom, is the better the product and services would be. And we shouldn't shy away just because there aren't people like us in the field, and shy away from things that we love to do, you know. So, and then, yeah, in the hardship of developing software. It's not, it's a team sport, but at the same time, it is challenging and rewarding. But when that challenging time happens, to remember those things. So it's really cool. If I may touch on what Lauren said, you're winding, not everybody has a straight path to tech careers. So if you don't mind getting into a little bit how
I got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I started college, I was so dead set on you know, doing a pre-med program and going to med school. And so I mean, the first few years of college, those were the classes I took. And I ended up changing my major a couple times because I just wasn't happy with it. Didn't really, I don't know. I was like, there's got to be more. I feel like I should be enjoying this more. And so I changed my major to statistics, and for statistics, I had to take a computer science course as an elective. So I ended up taking that and really loved it. Felt like I actually, like, we always had our homework due on Fridays. And I mean, that semester, those Friday nights, I would be working on computer science homework all night. I wasn't, you know, hanging out with my friends or any of that stuff. I was doing computer science homework. But it was a lot of fun. And, you know, my professor, he was like, you know, I think you've got a talent here. He's like, and it was my fourth year of college. So he was like, I know you're going to be graduating soon, but you should think about adding this as a minor. So I ended up adding it as a minor. And yeah, and so my last year, so I went to college for 5 years, and so my last year, it was kind of just jam-packed with a bunch of college or computer science courses. And actually, yeah, so and at that time I was working at Sanford in town, and one of the nurses that I worked with, her son was a software engineer, and he was telling her about they had an open internship, and so she let me know, so I was able to apply, and that's kind of how it worked out. And I had just gotten there, and I mean, the people I worked with at that internship, I'm now working with at my new job. So it's kind of weird, the weird path that I was on. But yeah, I'm very like I didn't take my first computer science course until I was 22, but I mean, I love it. So yeah, I would have liked to do it sooner, but I mean, that's my path. So yeah.
Nicole, how did you find your way to computer science, or how did you decide that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was interested in entirely different things. I really thought that I was going to major either in English or art. Those were my interests. At the time, I hated math, by the way. Just thought I'd mention that because I did go on to get a math minor, which is funny. But yeah, and when I was a senior in high school, or maybe it was actually a junior, I had the opportunity to take a web design class, and like I said, we didn't have any coding classes. The closest thing we had to a computer class was keyboarding, learning how to actually type fast, right? Which I don't think they even teach that hardly anymore. But anyway, so they had a web design class, and I just loved it. Like it took all of my interests and combined them, and I just I just knew this was the good fit for me. And I realized that computers, that's the great thing about them, right, is that technology is intertwined in everything, and you can really take any interest, and it's, technology is there, right? It's involved with everything. So I realized that and thought, I'll try this computer science thing. I honestly didn't even realize what it entailed at the time. I remember my mom telling me, "Do you realize you have to take a lot of math?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'll try it," right? You don't know unless you try. So yeah, I signed up, and in taking my first coding classes, I realized that there's so much creativity and problem solving involved with writing code, and for me, I was just hooked on that puzzle of getting to do that every day. I just found it so much fun, and just the whole design aspect of it, which is funny because you don't think of art and so forth as being necessarily related to it, but it's a lot of the same skills. It's that creativity and the design process and so forth. And so I actually think that it tapped into that same part of my brain that I liked, doing art and English and so forth with. So anyway, so that's how I ended up where I am.
Yeah, finding the homework that you like to do, I think, is key. That it's something that you're not mad about doing. Like Nicole said. But yeah.
I think that's a really interesting way to put it, because when you say homework, it seems like something you dread to do, you procrastinate it, but then if you want to do it, then you'll enjoy it. You'll find a passion there.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you describe to me what a day as a software engineer looks like? So walk me through your day in a life. If we can start with Nicole.
Well, the first thing I'll say is that the daily tasks of a software engineer vary greatly depending on the type of business you work for and so forth. Like it varies incredibly. And so my job is also, I think, somewhat unique compared to what most people think for a software engineer, but I work in Microsoft's developer division. And so in the developer division, we create tools and software and applications to help other software engineers go and build things. And so, for example, I think most people part of uCodeGirl are familiar with App Inventor. So the developer division creates something similar called Visual Studio, which if you go on to college, you likely will probably end up using Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio's environment for writing code. So that's just one product that comes out of my division that I work in. There's a whole bunch. But anyway, what I do on my team is I'm on a team called the Customer Success Team. And so I work directly with like Fortune 500 companies, IT departments, and also their software engineering departments to help them use our software and development environments and tooling so that they can be successful in building applications in their companies. And so I meet with customers weekly, daily sometimes, to basically help them write code, help them develop solutions, help them basically set up their backends, like their databases, networks, so forth in Azure, which is in the cloud. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And then I also bring all that feedback back to our product teams so that they can continue to improve all of our product offerings. And then another key part of my job is, as I mentioned, I have manager in my title. So that means that I'm also responsible for people who report to me. So I give career guidance and coaching and help with those aspects. And then I also help with aspects as far as just managing projects and making sure that the projects that we're responsible for with customers, that they're successful, and that we're all collaborating well and so forth. So that's kind of the key things. I would say the one thing that I definitely do all the time that I think is true for all software engineers to be successful is I spend a lot of time just learning every single day. I'm always learning new technologies, learning new languages, so forth, because I basically have to go and use things wherever the customer is, basically, so it can change, you know, weekly, monthly, because technology moves so fast. But anyway, that's kind of my day in a nutshell.
Sounds exciting. And it's like, what does it feel to have your part, your finger, so to speak, in the products that other people use? It's like, I have a part in, you know, Visual Studio. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting to see the impact you can have.
I love it. I love I love Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. We use them every day. So, but
Python development we'll use for Visual Studio. So
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So my day, I get to work, and I either, you know, start working on some tasks or you know, kind of go through emails and stuff. But then we have our daily like stand-up meeting where everyone on the team goes through, you know, what they did the day before, what they're doing that day, and if they need help with anything. And that's been pretty consistent at the few jobs I've had. So that must be a common thing. I don't know. But yeah, so then we do that. And then we kind of just, you know, we just start working on whatever task we need to do. I usually, before I started here, when I first started, I was doing, I was writing C# code, but we needed a front end developer. So I moved to front end and I had to learn how to write JavaScript and learn a couple other frameworks there. So it's all, like Nicole said, it's a ton of learning. I'm learning all the time. I'm Googling everything all the time. It's pretty, yeah, reading like documentation, how certain things work. That's a huge part of my job. That's more part of my job than I think actually writing the code is. But then also, you know, testing my code, stepping through it step by step to see, you know, how's the data changing at each, you know, line of code. It's also another big part of my day too. But yeah, that's for me, it's pretty consistent, my activities every day.
So you guys both, oh, sorry.
go ahead. I was just going to follow up one question. Sorry, Joyli.
Oh, it's okay. I was gonna have a follow-up too, but you guys both kind of touched on learning and this consistency of learning. Do you prefer that you always have to, you know, like Lauren said, you have to Google some stuff, you have to figure out something, you have to ask someone else. Do you like that part of your job?
Yeah, I really enjoy learning. Keeps everything pretty interesting. But it's there's so much about how code runs, how language works that you can't learn it all or know it all. It takes years. to know a lot of this stuff. So it's, you know, I mean, I think it's inevitable that it's a part of your job, I guess. Would you agree, Nicole?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Mhm.
I think it's almost hard these days to just be like an expert in one thing, because you're moving around so quickly, and as soon as you start to have expertise in the area, then before you know it, no one's using that anymore, and they're moving on to the
Right.
next greatest thing, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like you're just constantly moving, and I do think you just have to embrace that part of it, because I think it's exciting, you know, because you are always learning. I know I went into it thinking like I want to pick a job that I never get bored in, and for sure this is one, because there's always something new to learn. Always.
Yeah.
Oh, I was curious about the products Stonewater makes, or
we are building a product for utility companies, so we're a little startup. But yeah, working on smart grid stuff. So
oh, nice.
yeah.
Everything is smart these days. Smart home.
Trying.
I guess you guys can speak on your own experiences with this question or infer, but why do you think people decide to study computer science? Lauren?
Man, I think, you know, to touch on what Nicole said, how it's, I mean, technology is in everything. I mean, it's hard to think of an area where there's not some technology to it, or there couldn't possibly be some technology in there. So I mean, if you're interested in both, you know, the medical field and technology, you can work in tech and still get a lot of the medical field, you know. So I think that's a big part of it. There's a wide range of jobs. It's and yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is just, you know, the possibilities that you can have with computer science. So yeah.
And I'll just add to that, we've talked about the fact that it's important to be interested in this, so I don't want to take away from that. But to add to that point, I think I just heard a stat the other day that there's over 1 million open jobs in computer science right now. So the possibilities are huge in terms of being able to, you know, get a job in your field after you study it. And the second thing I'll add is that computer science typically is fairly high paying as well. So it's a very rewarding job on multiple levels, right? First, it should be your interest and your passion. I don't want to take away from that, but also as far as, you know, just the pay and, like I said, the career opportunities, it's really an amazing field to go into.
Interesting. So to kind of contradict the question I just asked, what do you think is the biggest stereotype or something that holds people back from computer science? Nicole?
Biggest stereotype. Well, I'll just say the stereotype that I think that I've seen, or maybe I even held this a little bit when I first started, is you know, I was a female, like I said, walking in, and I think I typically kind of imagined the stereotypical geeky guy behind a computer, just sitting there hours and hours all day, you know, never
Bunch of
showering,
nerds,
just
yeah.
writing code 24/7. And there are people like, yeah, that's great. Like, but the other point of that is that there's a lot of people who are not like that, you know, and there can be people, women, you know, all sorts of diversity there that can be successful in computer science. And in fact, the other point that's important to make here is while we need people who are like 24/7 coders, that's great to have. We also need people that are, you know, good at public speaking, that are involved in tech, good at collaboration, good at design. I mean, there's so many other aspects besides just sitting and writing code. And it's funny, when you do become a software engineer, you find actually that the amount of time that you're actually sitting and writing code is actually kind of small. Like, you spend a lot more time planning and designing, and like Lauren was saying, like sometimes you just spend a lot of time debugging, and you end up just like changing one line all day long after you debug an issue. Like, so it actually ends up to be a very small amount of code that you end up writing, and it's all these other skills that you need on top of it. So like I said, it's not just that small stereotypical skill set of just sitting behind the computer all day typing. It's much more than that. So I think I fully appreciate that now, but I didn't when I first started.
And it has changed through the last 10 years, right? Even the skills required, it's not just technical anymore. They want people who have, what you say, leadership skills, communication and collaboration has become elevated, what we normally in the industry put out as soft skills. But these skills, because you have to work together in order to create something beautiful and usable.
Yep.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, Nicole. It was definitely a stereotype I had. But also, you know, when I told my friends that I was taking computer science courses, most of them were like, "Oh no, like why would you do that to yourself? That sounds like it's so hard." I'm like, "Yeah, it is, but it's more of just like a shift in thinking, kind of. It's a different way to solve a problem, I guess, and like kind of once you get that shift in your mind, it comes a bit easier. But yeah, I think that's just another stereotype is like, oh, only, you know, crazy smart people can do it. And it's like, yeah, we're smart, but you don't have to be a genius to be a software engineer. So
kind of like what Nicole and both you, Lauren, you both said about trying to debug and try to fix it. Just brought this memory back of it was summer 2019 when we were doing the summer camp at uCodeGirl, and we're building a website. And obviously, it's not something you do at school or a class you take, so it was all new to us. And you know, most of the time I was thinking about it. Most of the time we weren't really building; we're going back and fixing it and asking questions and kind of like you said, that diversity, not only in people but in skill sets. I believe you probably need to be good at and to be successful at computer science, and maybe people forget about that. So continuing on, what does one need to do to become a software engineer? So what classes should they be taking? Is there certain schools that they should be looking at other than others? What would you say, Lauren?
I guess I don't know if there are, you know, certain schools you should be looking at. It's more of if you want to go into this field, you know, you need to be like we said, willing to learn and being able to adapt and it's constant. There's a lot of change and just like getting used to that. And I mean, it takes time to get used to it. I feel like I'm still getting used to, you know, the ever-changing world. But I think that's a big thing. And the first like 2 classes you take, usually they'll be hard. They will, because it is a change and they do assign you a lot of work. So don't get too scared about that. They're just, you know, it's a lot to learn. So but that's how like a lot of, you know, first classes are, I guess. So that was a thing for me. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get through any of these classes. But once you get through a couple of them, things come easier, and it just, you know, you kind of get used to the pace and what computer science is like. But also don't be afraid to take other classes though either, because you know, it might spark an idea in your head for like an app, you know, in a couple years or whatever. There's things like that where you have no idea what you're going to experience that might affect your life and your career and what you want to do with computer science too. Hopefully that answered your question.
You did well.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the straightforward path obviously is to go and do some sort of computer related major in a 4-year college, but there's also a lot of people that I work with that don't even have a computer science degree. You know, kind of a more atypical path, kind of similar to what Lauren did before she circled back to get the computer science minor. And the key reason for that is there's a lot of different ways to get coding experience, because that's really kind of like the underlying building blocks of what you need to be in the tech industry, is just to have at least some good fundamental coding skills and just the concepts related to it. And there's so much training available online these days that there's a lot of people who have picked up those skills either as part of other jobs or other fields that they've been involved in, or just through learning online. And so, like I said, it doesn't necessarily take a 4-year degree. So there's different ways to get there. But like I said, that's probably the more traditional route where you can do that. And then I would say, in addition to getting that education piece is, especially as a female, I think it's super important to have a network like uCodeGirl, or if there's, computing clubs in your school, to join those, because it's huge to have that sort of support group. I know I did not have that when I started, and it took me some time to kind of build up my own network of friends, which had I not had them, I don't think I would have been successful. So it would have been so nice if I could have started a little bit earlier and had some of those networks already available to me, because that really is, I think, instrumental. And then the third thing I will mention is once you get ready to the point where you've kind of got some of that fundamental knowledge, is getting an internship is huge as well. I did an internship towards the end of my college, and that really does a lot to prepare you for the real world. So really strongly recommend that.
That's a great point. I don't think I could have graduated. There's no way I could have graduated college and then jumped right into a real job. There's just things that a college classroom can't really teach you. So yeah, it's a great point.
Nicole, you kind of mentioned this in your second point about networking and the importance of meeting new people. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think when we talk about, as females, that you feel alone sometimes, or very isolated or different. When you start to feel that way, that's where I think it's so valuable to try and find like-minded people like yourself to some degree, and that set of people can be diverse as well, but if they have some similar interests to you, like I said, they can just provide so much support when you're not, feeling great. Like Lauren mentioned how she went to uCodeGirl in the evening, and that helped. And likewise, uCodeGirl has been a huge networking experience for me. I know at work also, like I have networks that I've developed at work with, people that I share common interests with. So I just really recommend just to always kind of keep your eyes open to different groups and clubs and so forth, because just meeting different people, like I said, they'll teach you things, they'll be supportive to you, they'll help open up opportunities that you may never have thought of. The more that you're by yourself, the more you kind of shut yourself off, I think, to learning and so forth. So that's why I really value networking. But.
What inspires you about the future of technology? We can start with Lauren.
This is a tough question. I'm going to be repeating ourselves again, but the fact that it touches so many different areas, I feel like I'll never get bored, and I don't know how anyone else could possibly get bored because of, just the immense possibilities. But that, and then also I know, in high schools and elementary schools and stuff, kids are starting way earlier with learning how to code and stuff. So, that makes me hopeful that, when they're my age or whatever, they're going to be, way above where I'm at. So it just kind of, I'm like, okay, well, then other things they're going to develop quicker. And I don't know, just like it's just constant changing. So it's just there's always new stuff, things to keep up with. And it's just, I don't know, just like it's cool to see like all the changes and all the discoveries and that I guess that's what inspires me.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think we're really going through a revolution, right now, and it started probably over a decade ago, but maybe even earlier than that, but we're still very much so in the midst of it. Jobs are changing all the time. I know, Betty, I think you've shared stats with the girls about talking about how many jobs are going to be created in the next 10 years that just don't even exist today. So just the nature of things is changing so drastically on just social levels as well as professional levels. Even if I look at what's happened during COVID, so much has changed in such a short amount of time and how we operate as a world world with technology just due to COVID. And I think it's going to forever be changed as a result of this. So it's exciting because it's even hard to even foresee all the changes that are coming, but yet you know that they're around the corner. So I think it's pretty amazing.
It's harder to separate. That it is becoming harder to separate our life. We're so integrated, how we work, how we live, how we interact with each other, and tools and technologies and the data, the insights. We used to, click on our computers, and then we moved into pinching and swiping, and now we talk to our computer, right? In a 3D space, and with virtual reality, augmented immersive realities, and artificial intelligence with all its good and bad sides. There is so much more for look forward to for everyone, and to be part of it, and to be part of changing it so that it would work for all of us.
Interesting. We've kind of been talking about the happier, the more inspirational moments in technology, but obviously there have been some lower moments. Can you explain the times where you felt like you wanted to turn around, switch your major again, or just quit computer science, and what helped you keep on pushing? Nicole?
This is a let me see, a complicated question, I guess, and I'll probably be repeating some things, but I've just always enjoyed the fast pace of it all, and so when times have been tough, like I said, I just really would concentrate on what do I enjoy about this field. And then the other thing to realize too is that as you're kind of coming up in this field, as a female, you also have opportunity to help influence change as well. So maybe things that you don't like, you can help change them. That's one reason why I'm part of uCodeGirl, right? Is I'm trying to make it better for future generations. So anyway, that's kind of how I persevere. Is I try to look at the glass as half full, and then think about the things that I don't like, how I can potentially change them, and then just really focusing on what it is I love about technology, and it's just the fast pace and the learning that I think is really exciting.
Yeah, I remember when at my first job, when I first started there, they hadn't hired anyone new in like 2 or 3 years, so I was very alone. It felt like not a lot of people to talk with, or they weren't in the same boat as me, and they all kind of knew what they were doing at that point. And at that, for like the first few months of that job, I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is so hard. I don't know how I'm gonna, figure this out. And then slowly I realized, you keep learning more and more. And you get used to it. You learn, and you ask questions, and you just, you make it work for you, basically, so you can be successful, and you put in the hard work. So yeah, so it was just, I was like, I love this. I know that I really like doing this work, so I'm gonna make this work for me, basically, is kind of how I was looking at it. But yeah, finding and finding just like people that this is kind of like the networking thing, but finding people that you can talk to about stuff, because things do get frustrating. So finding people and connecting with them in some way is just is really important. And if it's, today I wanted to punch a hole through the wall because I could not figure something out, and I went and I took a walk, and then I talked to someone, and 10 minutes later I figured it out. So it's just, it's a lot of that. Yeah. But those are, I have those times quite frequently, but
we all do.
The small things like taking a walk, they do come a long way.
Yeah.
Has there been anyone in your life, or maybe someone you heard a story about that and keeps you inspired about computer science, or that you just looked up to in this field? Nicole?
Um, well, I will say, and I'm not just saying this for flattery, Betty, you inspire me a lot. I will say
Yeah, yeah.
that, honestly. Like I said, coming up in this industry, I started my job, like I said, close to 20 years ago. It was a very different environment then. It was even a different environment, 10 and even 5 years ago, because that's how much things have been changing in terms of trying to have more increased diversity in our field, but we still have a long way to go. But there were so many challenges that I faced early on that were so difficult at points. And it's so wonderful to have a program like uCodeGirl. So like I said, when you see challenges, it's exciting because you can think there's a lot of room for improvement, right? And so there's a lot of opportunity to make change. But having someone like Betty that's helping drive that change, I think it's huge. And it's this kind of initiative that will help change this industry. And yeah, make it a game changer, I think, in terms of just even like creating better products and services for customers, because we've got more diversity within the industry itself. So hats off to you, Betty.
Oh, wow, that's so neat.
Yeah. I was also going to say Betty. But this is kind of a different answer. When I was younger, I have a younger sister who's about a year and a half younger than me, and she really wanted to play football when we were younger, wanted to play with the boys and play tackle football. And so she did, and she did for 3 years. And it was, I mean, I remember people saying, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be playing with the boys. That's weird, blah, blah, blah. And she, persevered, and she was, one of the better players. And I just remember thinking in some of my classes and, the first, year I was working, it was like, okay, if my sister can play football with the boys, I can, write code with the boys. So it's that was just a weird way, but yeah, she inspired me.
I love that example and the analogy, but I'm going to have to jump the bandwagon and agree. Betty has been an inspiration to us all. I think to many girls who have been in uCode, because I don't know how you do it. You just make all these amazing ideas, and you bring so many people together, and the camps that you create. I honestly, I don't know how you do it. It's just amazing, and it's fascinating to see every year what you're going to come up with next, because it always seems like you always have a new idea and you're always so creative. For example, this podcast, it's an amazing idea, and to also just talk to people and give people that opportunity to speak about their careers and to speak about their journey. I think that's just wonderful.
So you are my reward, Joyli. So to see you succeed and, look how articulate you are. It's all you, but giving you that opportunity and platform to grow it some more and shine. That's my reward.
Thank you. Now, as we wrap up this podcast today, going on to a little bit of a lighter note, a more fun note. If you could be a kitchen utensil, which one would you be and why? Lauren.
That is a tough question. Man, probably a wooden spoon. Very versatile and durable, I think. I'm not a great cook, not great in the kitchen, so that's the best I got. So a wooden spoon.
That's funny because spoon popped in my head as well. I swear, I'm not just copying your answer. And the reason why I picked spoon is I was just thinking of like stirring and blending, and like I tend to like pull people together and like collaborate a lot. So anyway, that's kind of why that popped into my head.
That's a good one.
Very, very versatile. A spoon is a very versatile utensil, so I can understand why you chose it. As our final question of the evening, what advice would you give your younger self that you're now grown up? Nicole?
So I think if I could do everything again, I would tell myself to not be afraid and like not be afraid when you don't know something or to ask questions, that it's okay. Something that I learned is that the more uncomfortable you feel, that's because you're gaining new skills that you haven't done before. And so I try to remind myself that it's good to feel uncomfortable because that means I'm building new skills. And so to the contrary, like the more comfortable you start to feel, you might need to start questioning that because you might be getting complacent almost, right? So anyway, that's why I try to tell myself like it's good to push yourself into those uncomfortable situations where you don't know things, and don't be afraid of that, because that's how you grow.
Yeah, I'd tell my younger self, take those classes that you're like, maybe I'll be a little bit, I might be interested in that, or even if you're slightly interested, I just recommend taking those classes because you never know what's going to happen. But also, just, be confident. Like you know your stuff, confidence kills, and yeah, and another, like Nicole said, is don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's the only way you're going to learn and the only way to build that confidence. So yeah, that's what I got.
Amazing. It's really good to hear. Well, that was all the questions I've had. Unless you guys both want to add some more or say any last few words, I think that wraps us all up.
I don't have anything, but I'll say you did a really nice job moderating. So
Yes, Joyli, good job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Joy, for your first time, and I'm going to be confident that this is not going to be your last, and you're going to be mentor for others. And thank you, Nicole and Lauren, for your time. We went more than the time we thought we allotted, but it was great to hear your insightful ideas and thoughts. So thank you. You inspire me, and thank you for saying yes to volunteer again and again for uCodeGirl causes. So I am so grateful for you. And so with that, thank you, Joyli. We will end it and see you soon around.
It's a great conversation. Thank you, everyone.
bye. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.